Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bill Harvey and I'm the manager of Kirkcaldy for All. Before we go any further, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping and domestics. There will be no fire alarms this morning, so any fire alarm does go off is a real emergency, and we have emergency exits on both sides, behind the big screen and to the rear of the premises. Can I ask you that you switch off your phones, please, or put them to silent? Now, before I introduce the principal speaker, I'd just like to set the scene a wee bit, how we've arrived at this point and where we hope to go on from here. We in Kirkcaldy have been aware that things out with our control have very real, very serious effects on our town centre. And as such, we lose some of the major retailers as their business models fail to see them through into the future. Some of these things we can't affect and we have no pull over. But we decided 2 years ago that we would try and do something to, as these major operators left the town centre, backfill them with more specialist and independent type shops, smaller shops, and also look towards our leisure and tourism and where that plays into the economy of the town centre. So we sat down, we met with some key people, Simon Baldwin and Andrew Bain, and we had a look at why Kirkcaldy wasn't, for a better word, sexy, why we weren't attracting inward investment, why nobody wanted to come here. And from that, we then had a meeting across in Edinburgh at the end of last year, December last year, where we met with some key industry leaders and players and asked them the question. It was a frank and open discussion, and it was under Chatham House rules, so what was said remains within that room. We were then tasked to come back and approach our local council to ask for political consensus going forward, and also their consent to facilitate, to enable what we wanted to happen to go. We then set about drawing up what we've now called a framework for growth. And the framework for growth is the third part of our plan for Kirkcaldy. The plan for Kirkcaldy has our vision, has what needs to change to progress, and what we're trying to do is bring the economic part of that, where we can inject into our local economy and help our local people through jobs, through things like that, become far more effective and thus help our businesses in our town centre. And it's as simple as that. We have then refined that, and we've had a series of meetings with Fife Council, and we continue to engage in dialogue with it. We have told through the press, through the Fife Free Press, what we're doing and kept the people of Kirkcaldy informed. And the reason we did that is because we thought it was such a serious matter for this town centre that we needed to try and push it along. So from there, there's been a series of meetings. We've been greatly enthused by some of the people that have come, that have supported it, that want to support us, want to go forward with us, and want to help us enable it to happen. And as such, we were kindly my colleagues had a meeting with Alan Harris. Alan, who's sitting down on the left, is the head of asset management and development for Montagu Evans, a major player in developments all UK-wide, if not worldwide. His expertise is that he works particularly with the public sector and the retail and leisure, and he specialises in private public sector ventures. So without much ado, Alan would be delighted to take questions after it, or if indeed it was a pressing question, through it. But I would ask us, I'm very mindful of the time that you've all given up, that we maybe allow Alan to do his bit, and then we can take questions from there. Thank you very much. Alan.
Thank you very much. I think we've got 2 hours, but it's unlikely I think we'll take 2 hours to go through this. I've got 86 slides, so be ready for a quick hop through of some of the things that are inspiring me when it comes to town centre regeneration throughout the UK and throughout the world in some situations. Some of the inspiration for what's an experience-led town centre actually mean, because it's quite confusing. We know what shops are, but what does experience-led and how does it actually mean to a sustainable town centre? So Montagu Evans, we're chartered surveyors, but really our job is, particularly in this space, more around being a marriage guidance counsellor between the public sector, the local authority in the situation of bed as well, with the private sector, the occupier, the tenant, and also the shopping centre owner. And so town centres nowadays need a huge amount of collaboration. It has to be community-led as well. So it can't just be bottom-down development like it perhaps has been in the past, where a fund manager from London decides they want to build a shopping centre and they do it, but it doesn't really integrate with the town centre. So I'm going to talk about some of the things I'm seeing in a commercial perspective. But I think where we start off, the paradox with beginnings is it can be scary at the same time and yet exciting at the very same time. And I try to make people think about this as exciting. I know it's scary, particularly on a shopping centre, it's very scary. If you have lots of shares in a retail business, it's very scary. But for Kirkcaldy and for town centres, we have to see it as exciting. And it's not just down to the fact that some retailers are closing, the issues are much, much bigger than that. So the high street is absolutely in crisis. You know, we had a walk up through the town this morning. It's no different. Literally, it's no different to many 500-600 other towns and cities up and down the country. Very similar issues. And one of the issues is they're all the same. We built, over the past decade, 15-20 years, we built clone towns, and they're all the same. And most of them, not just Kirkcaldy, are really boring. So the high street's in crisis. Most, if not every single shopping centre in the UK is for sale. The people who own those assets want to get out of those assets. The income stream is too volatile. The time that you spend on it is too long, and people want out. People now want into something called bed, sheds and meds. So that's beds, residential development, PRS, private rented sector, housing, hotels, student residentials, sheds, industrial logistics, and meds, which is the one that's just been tagged on to that phrase in the last year or so, is around well-being and healthcare. So that's where people want to invest their money in UK real estate, bed, sheds and meds, and they don't want to be in this volatile sector of the market. And this is usually where it starts. A big shop closes. It could be Marks and Spencer's, it could be House of Fraser's or Debenhams, or a list of them. And this is where it starts. And this is probably the wrong place to start, because so often people just say, right, how do we replace that occupier with another occupier and deal with it in a short-term way? And it has to be it's a lot bigger than that. We can't just go, okay, Marks and Spencer's closed, we'll find a new discount shop, we'll put Home Bargains or The Range or something like that in, who are excellent retailers and what the consumer wants, but that won't keep the wider issues in the town centre going. And be in no doubt, this is a really complicated issue at the moment. It's not simple. You won't solve it today. You won't probably solve it for a decade. It'll take a long time. It'll take a lot of people. You'll make a lot of mistakes. I make a lot of mistakes. Don't record that. It's very difficult, very complicated. You've got the people, you've got investment, you've got community. It's very complex. So don't be worried about feeling scared. I feel scared when I go to certain situations. How are we going to get through this over the next decade? And this is generally what I find. At one end you've got the private sector, and they're pooling because they're pooling for short-term returns. They're pooling for internal rate returns, the way they calculate funding. And at the other end you've got the public sector. The local authority, the bed, it could be government. But you tend, in a town like this, you tend to have people pooling in different directions. I don't know where the bid might sit in the middle holding the flag. I'm not sure where they are at the moment, here necessarily. But this is tend to be what we find, and that's not going to solve anything. We'll have to stop thinking that way. So I think about placemaking. This took me about 100 searches to get, because I put the word placemaking town centres, and I wanted to find some of my projects, and some Montagu Evans project. It took me a lot of time to find that. So the second and the fourth picture are projects that we've developed. We've been on those projects as the consultant to the local authority, probably about 10 years on each of those projects. The Lexington and Bracknell, which won the Revo, which is industry standard award for best shopping centre, best town centre in the UK, and the Old Market in Hereford, a quaint old market town, again opened in 2012, won the same award the previous year. So we're very proud of our placemaking, and not just thinking about shops, thinking about the place in the community. And this is where I start, placemaking. And words like this, connected, pride. Someone said to pride to me this morning, we've lost our pride in our town centre a little bit in Kirkcaldy. Active, safe. Those are the kind of the places I start to think about place. But for a local authority, particularly because I think they need to be that collaboration, the local authority and government, full stop, need to be involved in this, and they can't just be involved in this from a we're the local planning authority any longer. Local authorities have to be far more involved in the actual delivery of these projects, the leadership of these projects, and that's what's happening up and down the country. Lots and lots of very proactive local authorities taking control, taking leadership, and not just trying to prop up the town centre, but actually thinking, what's it going to look like for the next generation? This is hot off the press. This was just this morning. This is a magazine called the Municipal Journal, so it's kind of the trade press for local authorities. And this is Banbury Broaden's offer for residents. This is Cherwell District Council, who have acquired Castle Quay Shopping Centre. And this is them talking about, and in a way celebrating how they've taken control, which has led them to bring forward a cinema development. The private sector knew there was opportunity, knew there was an operator there wanting to do it, but the private sector wouldn't deliver that. So we're very proud of this. I acquired the shopping centre. We've advised Cherwell for about 10 years. We acquired it, we run the shopping centre for them, we do the placemaking, we're trying to bring alternative uses than retail. So that was just literally in the Municipal Journal this week. So this is a question I would urge you when you start to think about these things, is where to start. The what's the easy bit. We want a really vibrant town centre. The how, we put lots of streets together, we bring bits and pieces together. The bit that I don't think people think about enough is why. What is the purpose? What's the purpose of Kirkcaldy? And that's what would get you to spend more time thinking about, particularly from the bottom up, from the community up, because they are the people who are going to be using the town centre in the future. It's a community. They're the shoppers, they're the people who are going to be using the car parks, they're the people who are going to buy the flats and the houses, etc., etc. So if you're thinking about why, what's the purpose of Kirkcaldy? I don't have an answer for that. Maybe we can deal with that in Q&A. But get not just to the physical. We can do a bit of public realm. We can change the look of how the town centre is. But actually, why? What's the purpose of this? And then design it, because this is any town centre is going to see massive change over the next decade. So design it up from the why, not just simply the what. And so that gets a sense of purpose. I think any development needs to have a sense of purpose. So one of the places I start is this, which is this place, Blackpool, which is just scary to see how many people were using that. And I'm sure we can look at lots of pictures of Kirkcaldy in the past where there's lots of people maybe going to a Raith Rovers match or something. And how things change over time. What happened here is everyone went then got package holidays and go to Tenerife. And things change, you can't stop change. And sometimes we're in places we're trying to stop change, the evolution of technology, and it's very difficult. And this is what's happened in so many seaside towns, and that's what I don't want to happen in so many of our town centres. That we see there's an issue with our coastal towns, and we didn't really deal with it. It's ended up too many places like this. So we need to think how we can invigorate that and take that forward and learn some lessons from this. This is an article from November 2007. To me, that doesn't seem too long ago. It's 10 years ago. It's the headline: Nokia, 1 billion customers. Can anyone catch the cell phone king? Now, 10 years on, who has a Nokia phone? No one. Again, the pace of change is immense. And the things you do on your Nokia phone, I paid for my car parking on the phone this morning. I drove here, used my app on the phone. You do your banking on the phone. So the technology in 5G, which is, I think, just been introduced into a couple of cities in the UK as well. 5G is going to change again the way people can use data. And so we have to be thinking about the future and the generations through the future. That's just one of the pictures. I've got a bit of sense of pride in Blackpool because we did this development. New council offices, an element of retail and leisure development, and some public space, and there's a hotel being developed as well at the moment. So you can still make these things work, but this only works with a massive amount of collaboration between the public and the private sector. And that's why I've got a sense of purpose, because I used to go to holiday in Blackpool. And so I've worked in Blackpool, so my first project from roughly about 2002 I started. So that's been 15, 20 years I've been working there. And I've got a sense of purpose for it. We try to do it for the right reasons. And this is the other one, you can see it as an opportunity. Opportunity does not come gift wrapped. You must take risks. And I'm afraid that's the case. People say, well, why are we doing that now? Why don't we wait till another couple of years' time? That's going to be too late. The rate of decline, I think, is going to get faster and faster and faster. So I urge my local authority clients, I urge my private sector clients, please don't just wait till you think the time's right, because the time's never going to be right. The more you leave it, the more it will become, actually, I think, the more expensive it will come to repair some of these issues. And so we have to think about this as an opportunity. There are risks, and it's how we can kind of start to move through those risks. And one of the reasons things are changing, it's not because of retailers, not just because of retailers, that picture of Marks and Spencer's, it's far more generational than that. And I don't know if anyone's heard this phrase Gen Z. And so I've got a daughter who's a Gen Z, daughter and a son who's a Gen Z actually. And they're the ones that we need to be designing our town centres for. The baby boomers are very important, don't get me wrong, there's going to be lots of health, well-being, retirement, different things in there, they've got lots of money. How do we get them to spend it in the town centre as well? But actually thinking about the Gen Z, and they think, that it's a shame there's no Gen Zs in the audience. Again, I would urge you, as you go forward with this, get out to the colleges, get out to the schools, understand your Gen Zs, understand what they want. Don't just take it from a man in a suit in his 40s. We need to engage with the Gen Z, because they think different. This is work by some retail consultants. We use CACI. And they say, what are they? They talk about retail revolution. They don't. They just say it's an evolution. It's always happened. Shops have always opened. Shops have always closed. The butchers closed. Tesco's have taken over. Whatever it might be. And it's an evolution. And evolution sounds calmer, doesn't it, than revolution? I completely disagree with that. I think it's revolution. And the reason I think it's revolution is not just about retail. It's because of Industrial 4.0, AI. And all the technology that's going to be coming. And with merging that with Gen Z, the purpose of town centres are going to be completely different to anything we've ever seen before. I don't know if that's got any purpose, the picture, I just love this picture. You can analyse it any way you want. I actually analyse it. That person's probably going, I ordered something on my iPad, and 3 hours ago and it's still not been delivered. Where is it? You think, he's a man in his 70s or 80s. They're just as demanding as anyone else. They have their iPad, they are connected, and they expect deliveries to be coming really, really quickly. So I don't think this picture, to me, doesn't necessarily show the division between Industrial Revolution 3 and 4. It actually shows how we need to start to look at how technology is going to merge these things together. And why is it happening so quickly? And it is quick. It's going to be quicker as well. The UK, in terms of the digitally engaged countries around Europe, the UK is the fastest, most digitally engaged. So we are at the coalface here. You can't, I often get, I've just been on holiday in France and I went around this lovely town and it's, why can't UK be like France in certain ways? And there's some reason behind that. But no one is as digitally engaged as the UK from a European perspective. And that means we're having to learn as we go along. There's other examples like the States and different things which aren't even as engaged but are moving very quickly. And that's going to, as I say, get quicker. So this is engagement in terms of the spend that people have on physical stores and on digital. And the bottom line just shows how currently we're around about 20-21% of our spend is digital, and it's going to go to 30%, probably go well above that. So the spend digitally is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, which is going to mean shops close. We all know that, that's obvious. We can all walk up and down a town. Shops are going to close and lots of them are going to close. Not just a few, lots of them. And not just in town, out of town as well. Just because you might have a nice retail park, that's not safe either, because the experience-led town centres are going to be the pace of change. And why? Well, Fife, you've got an Amazon shed, so you know so much about Amazon. But there's so much choice out there. I can go on my phone now, I could choose something, I could probably have it delivered here in 2 hours. The quickest delivery online that Amazon have ever made is in the United States, and it's 9 minutes. 9 minutes. And it was in San Francisco, or it was in the Silicon Valley. And then the next one is 9.5 minutes, and then the next is 10. So the speed of delivery and the speed of those options is going to be so quick, and it's only going to get quicker. And you're going to see that in the UK soon as well. You're going to be able to be sitting there one evening, you just go, I fancy a bottle of wine, I'm going to watch a film, get a bottle of wine, onto your Amazon account, and that bottle of wine will be with you in 20 minutes. They've just bought a company called Deliveroo, or invested into a company called Deliveroo. So these are the guys on their bikes who pick up a takeaway and deliver it to your house. They've not bought that, they bought the delivery chain to get that thing there so quickly. The other thing they bought, which is just, it shows that these guys aren't retailers, they're a logistics company. They bought something called Ring, which is a doorbell, and you press and you see it advertised. We have one, we think it's fantastic. And you see that, on your phone it comes up, someone at the door. And the next thing you're going to see is Amazon will open your front door for you. And they'll put the items in your house, in your fridge. That's what's coming next. And that's not too far away. And Gen Z is going to love that. You might think that's horrible. I can never imagine someone coming into my own, through my front door, all the things with it. But Gen Z is going to love that. So they're going to literally come along with their scanner, open the front door, get into the house, the flat, wherever it might be, put the stuff in and leave. Or they'll come in, pick the stuff up you want to return, and go away with it again. It's just mind-blowing. And so what impact is that going to have on town centres? And this is what's happening. The best things in life aren't things. People are not spending the same amount of money on things. They're spending money on experiences. So, and I can see with my own kids, they don't spend money on commodities. They are not bought into brands in the same way as I think my generation were. They want to spend their money on experiences, being together, those types of things. And that's why things like this, music events, are just going in one direction, how popular they are. It's not spending money on music itself, it's not buying an album like we might have done before. It's on the experience. So it starts to show how technology, Spotify, coming together, and iTunes, coming together with experience, starts to connect together. I was just showing that chap again before going to this picture. And this gets back into retail. This is obviously a Curry's PC World or something of the like. And do you think Gen Z, or even a millennial, is going to go and buy their most next current coolest gadget in this shop, advised by someone who 1 minute is selling the washing machine and the next is selling a speaker, and the next thing, they're not going to use this shop. This generation might. They might use it for a little bit more. I think you'll be on your iPad. You probably already are. John Lewis, Price Match, all those types of things. So this environment is not even going to survive, because it's going to turn into this. This is Sonos, a very nice speaker. And these are pods that you go in a shop, in a town centre. You can't buy a speaker here, or you can't collect a speaker because they have no stock. But you go in with your friends, you sit in a booth, and you listen to the speaker, and you put your own music on the speaker. You can even have a pizza delivered to your apartment if you want to have it for an hour. And you go with your friend, and then you decide the speaker you want based on the type of music you listen to. And the person who's probably that Sonos person probably doesn't even know much about speakers. He probably doesn't know how many hertz they are, and what he'll know is about music. He'll be someone who likes music, and he'll connect with you based on music that you listen to, not on the techie bit around the speaker. And that person probably won't be bonused or given a commission on the sale. He'll be bonused and given a commission, or her, bonus or given a commission on how happy you are when you leave the store, the feedback you get later on. That's what people will get commissioned for in the future, not I've done a sale. This is Amazon again. It has such an impact. This is their store in the States. We're going to see these in the UK not too far along. We've already had chat about them. They looked at buying Homebase, the rumour is. We'll probably see them buy a retailer at some point in time, not because they want anything to do with the retailer, because they want their space, because it's in the right locations. So you go in here, you put your mobile phone down, you walk past the gate, you pick the item up, you scan it with your phone, and you leave. And that's charged to your account automatically. You don't speak to a person, you don't have to stand in a queue, you just literally pick it up. The minute your phone and the item go together, that deactivates the cell on it, so you can walk out with that, and it's straight onto your account. So you can be in and out in 10 seconds, then pick a bottle of water, scan it out. And you know how difficult that is when you get to one of these shops, in the supermarket, you've got to scan these things, and how long it takes, and it doesn't work, and the red flasher goes, and all those types of things. So again, it's going to be so different. This is actually a bit like Sonus in a way. This is a car dealership in Westfield, probably one of the examples of where retail is still actually working, but this is a car dealership in a shopping centre, and this is a company called Rock Car. And again, the whole, people don't want to go out of town to a big car dealership and buy a car any longer, particularly females. They hate it. The pressure, the sales, it's all men in there, it's not very pleasant. So lifestyle brands like this are going into shopping centres, and again, these salesmen won't be bonused on car sales, they'll be bonused on customer satisfaction, which is great, experience-led. And nowadays, it used to be an average of something like 6 visits to a car dealership before you bought a car. Now it's one. You go in saying, I want this car, I've done it online, I want the car. And so, the way people engage with the retail environment. IKEA, going back into town centre, this is a small store they've opened in London. And this one, which I think is really interesting with this, they've gone out and engaged with the community about how they design the interior of the store. So they've got involved in art groups and young people and got them involved in actually what the physical space in the store would look like. And I think that's, even for a big brand like IKEA, I think that's fantastic, again, how they're engaging in the community. And one of the impacts of that is leases. My industry was very much supported by 25-year leases, full repairing leases. That meant as an investor, as an institutional investor, where unfortunately lots of our pension money is, they could get a 25-year lease, they could walk away, they never needed to visit Kirkcaldy ever again because they had a 25-year lease, it was rock solid. Those days have gone now. To the degree that we don't actually want, in my view, we don't want retailers to have leases. Because if you have a retailer that's standing there, and trading there, and they're doing a rubbish job, and they're not driving footfall, we don't want them in our shopping centre, we don't want them on our high street. That's negative. So we're going to have a lot more short-term leases, a lot more turnover leases where rent is paid as a fraction of sales, and there's going to be landlords who thrive on getting the right mix, and that's where the performance. If you just want to be a distant landlord in London, and I'm sure you've got some of them in Kirkcaldy who own real estate in Kirkcaldy, that's not going to work. You're going to have to be on the ground, understanding your community, understanding your customer, and you're not going to have the comfort of long-term income. I quite like this image. This is a coffee shop in Amsterdam. And again, how do you turn something into experience? So they've got an app, and it comes up when they've got a bread making machine, and they've got various events that go on. You could learn how to be a barista and make coffee and different things, and it all comes up on the app and engages with you. They've got nice co-working space, very, very important in the future. Folk aren't going to work at home, we'll talk about that in a moment. So they've got a co-working space, they've got clean toilets, which is also quite rare sometimes in these places. What's really fascinating in the top left corner who it is? Starbucks. A global brand, but they've in a way hidden most of that from the environment. But they're looking at all of these new techniques, and I think there's going to be great if we could get some local Fife businesses to start to look at how they can run their own individual coffee shops. I would much rather go into an individual coffee shop run by a local person, a one-off, than go into Starbucks every day. The Starbucks are going to fight against that, and they're going to individually make their stores very different. And that's where I think we have to be loyal to the local brands as well. And one of the other reasons, this is probably the architectural office that was designed in the shopping centre in Kirkcaldy, one of them back in the day. But that's all changed. The way people work has changed. People want to work more in this environment. Our 20, 25-year-olds at work don't want to come into our office 5 days a week, don't want to sit in the same desk every day, don't want to sit next to the same person. They don't want to commute an hour to get to work, be it in Edinburgh, Bristol, London, Glasgow, wherever it might be. They want to work in more of these flexible environments where it's more challenging and more collaborative. Some of them won't even probably have a 5-day-a-week job in the future. Gen Z will probably have, I do 2 days a week here, and I do 3 nights a week there, and I do a summer term there, it's going to be far more agile than it is before. And we can see that coming in to proper mixed use in town centres. This is what I think we're going to see a lot more of, which is co-working in a hotel. So this hotel, which is going to be open in London in Southwark in a couple of weeks' time, has 2 floors of co-working. So you subscribe to this and you pay to use this space in a hotel, and then they've got all the benefits of that. They've got restaurants. You can even have a deal to stay over. If you're working late at night, you can stay over for 25 quid. And I think that type of genuine mixed use, where you say, I'm not going to come into the office today. I've got other stuff on. I don't want to work on my kitchen table because it's a bit cramped. It's not, I've got a dog barking or I've got kids out running around. So I want to go into a space like this. I don't want to commute. And I only need to work for 3 hours today because I've got other things on and I'm working later on or something. We're going to see these spaces taking over, and again it comes back down to the whole place-making environment. And this is one actually in Stockholm that we visited with a chief exec and a leader of a council recently. Same concept. It's a shared space. You can just walk up. You don't even need to be using the hotel. It's there. There's a run club that comes out of the hotel at night. So they get there, they're allowed to use all the facilities to get changed, to have showers. They then go and have a drink in the bar afterwards. It's again engaging with the community. People just come along with a laptop and work for a couple of hours, and it's all free. But bringing footfall to an experience to that town centre. And back to Gen Z. And every place is slightly different, but our youth of today probably aren't going to own properties in the same way as our generation has owned them. I think it's going to be a big reason why town centres are also going to change. So it's not just about shops, it's about people of this generation who are living at home, living in shared flats or living in tiny flats, and therefore they don't have any place to entertain. They don't have a living room and a dining room and somewhere that they don't really want to bring their date back to sit in the living room with their mum and dad. So they're going to use the town centre as their living room. How do we support that? How do we encourage that genuine mixed use? That there's a rental block of flats here that's immaculately run. It's private rented sector. It's immaculately run. It's a fantastic environment to live in. But you've got all of these other facilities you can use. And because you have a small flat, here's all the other shared spaces you can use and book and etc. And one of the negativities, and I've got a planning colleague here and I'll blame him for all of this, is the missing middle in our housing types. And I don't know where Kirkcaldy sits in this, but you've got lots of houses in the outer edge of your donut, and you've got some flats and smaller properties in your town centre. But do we have that middle band that's going to create more urban living? The duplexes and the townhouses and the live-work, tighter courtyards, and not just blocks of flats and not just houses. I think there's a generation, and I don't think it's just Gen Z, by the way. I think it's also people who are going to retire want to retire back into an urban environment. So our planning system and the way we develop needs to engage more of these denser uses closer to the town centre than we currently do. Because this is also what we're going to happen. We're going to get our houses delivered on a lorry. This is an urban splash, very innovative regeneration developer in Manchester. And they've trialling the concept of building in factories far easier, particularly when there's no labour to build those properties in the same way after Brexit, etc. Building it in a factory, bring them along, and you can log online and you can design your house. I want my living room on the ground floor, or the first floor, or the top floor. I want 2 bedrooms or 3. I want the door to be on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. You can do all this online. It calculates how much it's going to cost, and they bring it along, and it's built within no time at all. And it gets back to kind of that app, that I talked about, the 5G coming in, technology, Deliveroo. Deliveroo decides what you eat. Deliveroo, I don't know if you've got Deliveroo in Kirkcaldy? No. So it's you go into the app, it's got all of the restaurants in Kirkcaldy that do takeaway. You choose the one you want and it just delivers it. So you don't need, you've got an account, it takes out your credit card straight away, it tracks where the driver is, and it records everything that's going on. And nowadays, people find that easier than just phoning up their local Chinese takeaway burger place or wherever. Deliveroo decides kind of what you eat sometimes because it prioritises it. There's that health and well-being. Spotify decides what you listen to in music. Nowadays, Tinder decides who you date even. So these apps are taking over our world, and there'll be a pushback against that at some point. And I think people want to get back to being a little bit more individual. And again, our town centres need to be agile to that. Banbury, we talked about Banbury in the Stark Shopping Centre, Council bought it, we're very proud of it. Instagram, back onto apps, Instagram, really important, Instagram generation. And so I put Banbury Town Centre in, and this I thought this was fantastic actually. It's coming up with, food and beverage, fashion, there's, the local butcher. I thought that's really, that's good. People are proud of their community. Kirkcaldy Town Centre, when you put it into Instagram. So you can see how important these themes are, and to try and get these things right. Because that's what folk are looking at. The generation are going on, what am I going to do today? Where am I going to go? What's happening? What's the vibe? What's, the contrast at the moment between Banbury, which is probably slightly more advanced in terms of its bid, has been going for a long time. Again, and they can therefore influence some of these themes to some of the other themes that goes on. It doesn't always work. This is the Bullring shopping centre in Birmingham, and I don't even know this chap's name, but it was a famous YouTuber who put on his YouTube, I'm going to be in Birmingham today, I'm going to go to the Bullring, and this is what happened. The whole of the city centre of Birmingham ground to a halt, because that one YouTuber drove all of that footfall. And you would think that's brilliant, everyone's in the town centre. The shops didn't sell an ounce that day, because no one could get to the shops. The road's ground to a halt. You can see all the yellow jackets going, what do we do here? People couldn't get, the people who wanted it didn't get in the shops who turned around. So the power of digital is fantastic, but we also have to understand how we can utilise that on a day-to-day basis. And if you can get this chap to say he's going to come to Kirkcaldy, I think it would be fantastic. And so that comes back to that, I was saying about all these apps are kind of driving what you do, and we're kind of now conforming in a way through technology, and it's scary to actually think what data that people have on us. But people are still after spontaneous experiences. This is a night shop in London, or it could even be the States, this one actually. They want to just go along and find something they didn't expect. It might be a smell, a sense, it might be from a market, it might be a sport activity that's going on like this, it might be some music, it's just that spontaneous, that's why people want to come in. And that's where the bid does have a really important role in organising those events, making them regular, making them, I don't think everything needs to be advertised either. I think it's just making it, having that, something exciting, you come and go, I didn't expect that. And so it wasn't planned. And we're seeing more of this. This is Italy, they've got one in Milan, they've got a couple in New York, they're bringing one to London. I don't think, I looked at the requirement list, the next one is in Kirkcaldy. But what they do is, this is a market, food markets are taking over, I'll show you another example in a minute. So they've got 3 or 4 restaurants in there, you can buy the produce, you can go for a cooking school, you can do wine tasting, you can have ice, it's just that whole experience. This is Italian-led, but there's other smaller ones. This is a very, very successful one, been really led by the local authority in Altrincham. This is on the outer edges of Manchester, Altrincham, a little market, and you've got 6 or 7 different food offerings around the edge. This is becoming very, very popular. As folk don't want those big brands, they don't necessarily want to go to all the time a Nando's or something. They want something different. They want to, these tables, you can't book any of these tables. You sit down, you might be sitting next to each other. But again, we're going to see a lot of this type of change coming into town centres. And these are very profitable as well. And it comes back, the person who runs this doesn't just make money off the rent that comes in. He makes money off, he brands a beer, which these occupiers who he rents to buy from him. So he's taking money off the beer or the soft drinks or some of the produce, not just rent. And that's the way, the different way that people are going to make town centres viable. Pop-ups are becoming very popular. This is a pop-up wine bar. It doesn't look pop-up, it looks very, very well fitted out. And it's been done by a national retailer, Tesco's. Who would think that Tesco's would have a wine bar fitted out like that. This is a pop-up they did in Soho to advertise their finest brand. I do think that's really interesting that even Tesco, which you think are a very, very strong retailer, are trying these kind of new things. How could we do that? How could we do a pop-up, create some space in the town centre, 2 or 3 units, that we can then put different pop-ups into at a different time, attract different people. Again, that spontaneity and that change. I think this was it became one of the most popular wine bars in Soho in London over the summer when they were there for 6 months. This is another scheme we do in the South East Camberley, Surrey Heath Borough Council, and this is their bid have done this, and it's a cinema on top of a car park. In the summer, the top level of the car park isn't used. They put a screen which is not much more sophisticated than what we've got today, and they get people to come in on a nice night, and they put some deck chairs out, and it's been really, really successful. So again, it's just those things that you can do through the time. This is a rooftop car park in London. Because people don't need cars, we'll come to that in a second as well. People don't need cars, so car parks are becoming emptied. People aren't driving into the town centres, so we can reuse them as this type of space. Which, gets back to kind of the real flexible. People are just going to drive up soon with their product in a vehicle like this and sell it for a couple of days and go to the next one and go to the next one, because they need to get their brand out there. They don't need to be in a shop 365 days of the year. They need to be there occasionally, and we're going to see this. I think this is a really good example. I'm not even sure what it is, but I think we're going to see more and more of that. And again, how do we facilitate that? Where's the space? Who books it? How do you actually even get a permit to do this? I wouldn't even know where you start. This is something called Box Park in London, and I don't know if you've seen these things with crates, where they bring big crates along, big shipping containers, they put them around the edge, and people trade food and beverage out of each of them. What I think is fantastic and really interesting about this is a food and beverage. This is somewhere you go to, restaurants, and this is the front page of their website, and they don't even advertise a restaurant. They advertise what's on the thing that you can do. So it's not saying we've got 10 restaurants, it's not saying we've got a special deal on that burger place. It's putting on the events and selling the events, and then people come to the events and the rest looks after itself. And the new craze, which is competitive athletics. The next generation, that Gen Z generation, are far more health conscious. Their well-being is far more important to them. They don't go to the pub on a Friday night like other generations did or still do. They go to a nightclub. And to do things like this, they gym classes and fitness, and they take very much pride. So this is in a way the new nightclub where they go to do these types of classes. And this is a fitness shop called Lululemon, and again at the forefront of it, linking that experience to the sales, where you come and you do a yoga class. At the in the class in the morning, probably when there's not many people in a shops buying products. 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, who's there? Not many people. So they use the space to do these types of things, and then people buy the products after the event. And it's regular, you can book it in every week. It's like a gym, but you don't pay for these events. And the other types of things I would like to see coming into town centres is the health centre. I think the health, well-being, and also the elderly issue we're going to have to manage going forward. Healthcare. This is a Lincoln University that we're doing with them at the moment. This is on top of an old retail park. This is a school in southwest London. All of these types of uses, how you integrate that with the retail and the leisure and the offices, which are going to be more flexible, and the hotel, and these kind of civic and cultural uses. And one other thing that we need to start designing far more quickly is we need to design out crime. Now, I don't know which one's the criminal here, to be honest. But we need to start designing out crime into our town centre. If people don't feel safe, they're not going to come to the town centre. If they get to the car park and they don't want to get into the lift because they've got the baby's buggy, they don't want to get into the lift because it's not safe or it smells of pee or whatever, they're not going to come. Quite simple, So the whole experience of the brand, the arrival, the gateway into the car park or on the bus or walking or cycling, when you get there, is it well managed, etc., etc. And a lot of that particularly where people are going to be living and working, we need to make sure that we design out crime into these developments. And fantastic image, this one, and very local for one. So, the concept of building in the civic, the cultural component. This is a great example because it's got old and new, and you'll know it very well. And it doesn't have to be as grandiose as the VA in Dundee, but also understanding the civic and cultural dimension to a town centre and bringing that through from the community up, arts and culture and theatre and those types of things. And this is where someone's done it quite well. This is Chester West Council have built a new library, but it's also got a cinema and it's got a theatre, and it's a place that folk go to do co-working, because you can sit in some really nice spaces and do co-working with your laptop, and it's got a cafe, and bringing all these things in. It's something that brings the community together again, and it's such a good space. You just want to go into town just to spend time there. And one of the other reasons you want to go into town is the public realm, and the safety and the use and the excitement of that public realm. And again, we can all pave some streets and put granite pavers down, but I think there's some, particularly with technology, now some places you can go onto your app and you can change the light colour that's going on to a building. You can control it, and how you engage into this kind of three-dimensional public realm. This is Hull that won that we awarded. I sit on a committee called the Revo Committee, which is the Town Centre Awards. So we awarded this council the kind of most proactive regeneration local authority this year. And so they've done some fantastic things in Hull. Yes, they had the City of Culture. Yes, that was a help. But they didn't get that up by accident. They got that through long-term leadership of their town centre. And one of the other changes is just the way we use cars. People aren't going to have the same amount of cars in the future. People are going to want to work closer to where they live. So that, we have to start to plan in those dimensions as well. This is another local one. This is Lochleven's Larder, where I sometimes go for breakfast. And the entrepreneur there, Emma, who runs it, has started park run. Started a park run there. So, what a fantastic way to bring footfall to your location. Who else is doing this? Who else is creating these things linked into town centres? Who's saying, I've got a stake in this, I'm going to build a path, and I'm going to organise it, and I'm going to find the people who can help me run it, and we're going to bring 3 or 4 people to my retail environment. Every Saturday morning they can use the toilets, even if they're not buying anything, they can use the toilets, they've got a car park, etc, etc. I think it's a fantastic entrepreneurial idea. And again, how do we get this more into running our town centres? Because I don't see many people having ideas like this and connecting together. And again, I'm sure the bid have got a massive responsibility to try and connect some of these ideas together. And it comes back to community, doesn't it? Meetings like this, meetings in your school, meetings in your colleges, meeting with your Gen Zs, and going out to meet them and getting your community engaged. And it could be in a range of fantastic projects. It's just there's so many different things you can do. You've got empty shops. How can we get our community engaged? Our different generations. How can we get people to come in and take pride in the town centre again? And so they feel it's their town centre. They feel that they have an involvement in it. So we have to go to the Bible to get, after we've given you all those dreams and visions and ideas and how all that might start to come together over the next decade, to be honest. You've got to go to the Bible, don't you? So, you have to be bolder. We have to be braver. Unfortunately, we're going to have to be really, really courageous. That means taking risks. That means making mistakes. I think if you explain it, if you're transparent, if you show why you are having to do some of those things, I think the community will be grateful in the future. So my advice, be distinctive. When you start to think about what Kirkcaldy is going to look like, and it's not just the physical Kirkcaldy, it's not just what a building's going to look like or the public realm, it's the whole brand. What is Kirkcaldy? The why. Why is Kirkcaldy here? Why is Kirkcaldy Town Centre? What do the community want to drive from it? Be distinctive about it. Don't just try and copy somewhere. Go and get lots of inspiration from different places, and but be very distinctive. But be about Kirkcaldy. You know, be genuine about Kirkcaldy, and the great things in the pride and and the purpose that you have for it. You have to end on a Blackpool picture, don't you? And that's kind of challenge perceptions a little bit. Don't just do it because it's safe. I think there's an element of also challenging perceptions. And this is what I'm told all the time. Be patient, be patient. There's no rush, be patient. I don't agree with that. I think it's, this is the way I feel our town centres at the moment. We're flooding. It's becoming, we can't stop the water coming in, and we can't just wait another year and another year and another year and another year and wait till that private sector person comes in and has a conversation. We need to start driving it. Or this is, because this is the easiest option, isn't it? This is what a lot of us do. A lot of local authorities do this, a lot of bids, a lot of politicians, a lot of private sector do this. You just put your head in the sand. So, advice, leadership and teamwork. Very, very important. Get your leaders together, talk about it, trust each other. Really important. Get the cards on your table. If you've got issues from the past, get them on the table, deal with it, move on. Get yourself a plan. It doesn't need to be a massive plan that's got 300 pages and costs you £100,000. It could be 4 bullet points, but just get a plan. Something that you can start to articulate to people, and get a stake in the ground, get a project. Get a project that you can get the people around, community, politicians, bid, occupiers, people who live here, etc., etc. Just get one project and then start to build from there. Because if you always put off we're not going to do that project yet because it's going to cost too much money or it might not work. Just try and find a project that can work. So that's my advice. Good luck.
Thank you, Aaron. That's fantastic. A lot to consider there. Delighted to take questions. I have a roving mic for those that are loud enough. Please feel free to speak up. For those that are quiet and retiring like Harry, I will pass the mic to you. So, if you have any questions, please.
I'll start on that case. I don't think you need a microphone. You rightly highlight the online and out-of-town challenges and the experience-led need for town centres and communities. However, I have to tell us a couple of weeks ago, Oldham were delighted. They were delighted by a tram link in and out of Manchester. The trouble is, nobody goes in, nobody comes out. So this experience-led thing seems to draw more and more people in a city-centric way. Yeah. Out of the towns, provincial, old, and one time very important and prosperous regional towns like Kirkcaldy and the best pipeline.
Yes, it's a really difficult question because our industry is dead simple, doesn't it? Our industry drives where we're going to get success first. And so you go to the towns that we think we're going to get successful from because we'll make more money, we'll make our money, we'll get our appointments, we'll have more success, we can put case studies up. So, and then you look at the other one because we work for kind of 3 groups of people. We work for local authorities who need help to bring all of these challenges together. We work for the investors who own town centres and want to get out of them because they want to get to bed sheds and meds and they don't want the hard work of being running places. But we're also advising the new group of people who want to invest into town centres, and there's a massive amount. They're just too early for them yet. So there's a massive amount of people. But we just go through the spreadsheet and they say, if you're going to invest, you need to be able to sell your flat for, in the southeast of England, it's over £450 a square foot. Sales rates in Kirkcaldy are probably £200 a square foot. You can hardly build and create land value at £200 a square foot. It needs to have some education, it needs to have infrastructure, all these kind of qualities, it needs to have some civic pride, etc. So on a spreadsheet, Kirkcaldy's not going to do that well, and so it's going to be difficult to, that new investor. And I'd say it could be occupiers, it could be investors, UK investors, long-term pension funds. People are going to take the right people to come in and take a long-term view, but the numbers just aren't going to stack up. And so in Oldham, it's very, very difficult. That's when the public sector, is going to have to come. So there's something called the Future High Streets Fund. Don't know if you've heard about it. In England. It's only in England. I'm not Scottish, I don't work that much in Scotland even though I live here. But in England, you've got the Future High Streets Fund, the government have put £675 million, you apply for a grant, they're going to give out about 15 to 25 million to some places to look at changing, and it's going to need those types of grants to come in, and it's going to need the whole place, a lot of these old shopping centres to be demolished before we can even start and rebuild back up. But I think it has to come from the community, and I think you have to get the kind of the size of your town centre right. It's going to be a lot smaller and a lot more tighter and contain your footfall and your experience in other ways. I don't think, to be honest, I don't think our industry knows how we can answer that question yet. There's going to be places that die, that just die, never come back, and are just going to end up kind of flatted communities with no heart to them, and which I'm really upset about. But we've got 1,000 towns, and we don't need 1,000 towns with town centres. So there are a lot of places, I don't know if it's 100, 200, 300, a lot of places aren't going to need a town centre in the same way, and it's just going to get smaller and smaller and smaller.
And the selling point to a town like this in the past for residents, for business, was proximity to a city, but in some ways that drains.
Yeah, and I think that comes to why, and how do we work off of that? Because there's not everyone wants to live in Edinburgh. I didn't. I moved out. I didn't like it at all. So not everyone wants to live in Edinburgh. They don't want that noise, that environment, that hassle of commuting and those types of things. So, but we have to then give the generation, particularly so you don't lose them all. You don't want all your kids who are coming through to move away and never come back again. So I think you have to start thinking about what can we do to make them stay here.
Anybody else? I'll pick up then on one of the things you said about, we don't need so many town centres. I don't know how we feel, but what can we do to try and make us one of the town centres that isn't going to die? I mean, you talk about maybe some list somewhere where you're going to get your return on your investment. Is there any specific steps that we can take that start to put us on that list and push us up that list, so when that potential investment is there, it comes to Kirkcaldy?
Yeah, I think the first thing you need to do is have to take a really long-term view on this. And I know there's some politicians in the room and stuff. You've got to take politics out of this for a bit, and you've got to think 10 to 15 years minimum about a plan, and not just when's the next event that I need to show some progress. You need to take a really calm, collected, long-term view that's based on some research and understanding of your community, and not just to try and do some short-term rushes. And then it's going to involve a lot of investment, and that might mean a lot of investment by the public sector. That might be the local authority, it might be grants, it might be, I'm sure there are other ways to access funds in Scotland, and create gradual change. Just keep getting positive news, building that, keep that momentum going. I think if you get some of those basics right, the rest will look after itself. But you have to be long term. This is not a 1 to 2 year plan. This is a 10 to 15 year plan.
That kind of goes against what you were saying about being urgent. So we've been working in partnership with the council.
Yeah.
We've been working in partnership now since 2012, 2013. And the agenda keeps getting away from us because the change is so massively fast.
Yeah.
So what we think was a good idea like 5-6 years ago is out of date.
Yeah.
So when you plan something, you need major capital investment. It takes time to get the money together.
Yeah.
By the time you've got the package together, the agenda's moved.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult to find a solution for any of the big town centres that won't be out of date the minute you might put the package together.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
And that's why but it's not just about massive buildings either.
No.
There are smaller things that I think you can do around some of that placemaking, and one of the problems we have, and one of the problems you have, is you've got too many people in your town centre and they're not aligned. So you've got individuals, be it investors from London or worldwide, everyone who owns an individual shop, and they're driven by my shop's going to be, if my shop's empty, I'm going to have to pay vacant rates. I need my income in, it's my pension, whatever it might be their objective. And unfortunately, town centres that have got all of those challenges and different ownerships can be really difficult to manage. And that's why some of the local authorities down south are starting to bring together. And I was in Kilmarnock actually last week with the council, and they bought 5 or 6 properties. They're not buying a couple $100,000. They're not massive bucks. Buying these and starting to put it together so they can create some sort of sensible plan, because it doesn't really matter what you put in there, you're going to need to control them to do change. I think for me, it's urgent that you get together collectively and start to think about what the future is. It is going to change, it is going to have to be flexible. And sometimes that's been great. We were working on projects that I would have regretted now if we delivered. At the time, it's like, oh no, that's not going to work. You know, your local councillor shoots your head off. But actually, it's been the best thing ever that's not happened. And and you have to look back and kind of go, yeah, we dodged a bullet there. But it's really difficult. But the mixed message: you've got to be urgent. You've got to get on with this, because in 3 years' time, it's only going to be a lot worse. Versus what's it going to look like?
Heather, have you got a question?
Yeah, I was just thinking that there's almost like, for me, there's something that we might be able to think about doing in parallel, because quite a lot of what you're talking about, what takes the long-term planning, is around asset development, redevelopment, timescape and capital. I guess the other thing we want to be doing in parallel, so just listening to what you're saying around placemaking, is very much about driving change in people's behaviours and attitudes. So it seems to me that we could be doing things in parallel, but very much around the experience and very much around the events. So we don't see those as being the answer, but we see them as part of the strategy, so that people do start to get that civic pride back in the
So it's called, I'm sure you know the phrase, meanwhile use. And Box Park that we talked about, the one in Croydon, started as a meanwhile use, where they had an empty site, they brought these crates along, and they didn't expect it to be as successful as it was, and it's been massively successful. So every project we go in to look at now is, what's the meanwhile use, what's the 0 to kind of 2 to 3 year short-term uses that we can put in there and manage and these don't make money, but they just change attitudes. And
I suppose I was thinking particularly as well about like what we are rich in. So what we're rich in is stories, what we're rich in is heritage. And I would say this because that's my bag, but I do think that's got a real role, that whole kind of cultural destination, cultural tourism. And tell the story of Kirkcaldy helps with the civic pride, which helps people then engage with some of the longer term visions. So I was interested to see you brought some of that up, but you brought it up from an asset perspective, whereas I think culture and heritage fits very much with experience people and stories. I think we have got a real opportunity in Kirkcaldy.
Absolutely agree.
Anybody else?
You were indicating that you felt there was going to be, not yet, but going to be, significant reinvestment or change of investment patterns in our town. Away presumably from the monolithic shopping mall, big economic single unit. Can you see that resulting in a real boost to aggregating retail units within the high street? And how do you see an economic pattern from the investor? Not councils buying up shops and individuals, but actually managing high streets as the real economic unit of the town.
So where do you kind of start on that? I think that there are people who have bought up their town centres to take control. Principally because I've sat in meetings with a chief exec or a leader of the council next to me, and an investor who owns a bit of the town centre comes in and says, lost another 20% of my value this year. My fees have gone down based on the value, so I'm not that interested in this now. It's priority 66 out of 67 assets. I can get a 13% return investing into that resi building in London, and I lose 5% per annum investing into Kirkcaldy or wherever. And I could tell you, I could go and have a sit down with Mars, who own the shopping centre here, and it would be exactly the same. And you say, well, what are you going to do about it? Well, we can't sell, because no one will buy it, because there's not a market there. People don't want to get into it. So, how do we do it? And so down south, the reason that some of them have taken control is that actually the underlying opportunity is quite strong there. We can merge together our car park income with the ground lease that we have in a shopping centre, with the other, and we know we want to move our civic office accommodation as well, and we know we can lend money from the government, and you can do it in Scotland as well, Public Works Loan Board at 2%, and we know that we can get a 4% return off building a cinema, and so they put a wider business plan together. And it's not just about, the problem is if we put too many red line round a specific site and put a business plan, that won't work. The red line has to go a lot wider. And the place I think that needs to start with first is the public sector. And I mean that in terms of health, education, local authorities, the government. Those people don't speak the same language at the moment. I think in Scotland you might be slightly more advanced, but you don't speak the same language on a lot, because a school's driven by certain objectives around education, and we've got a budget. The hospital's driven by different objectives, and I think we as an industry, we as a country, need to take a different view to how we do a financial model of that. So we don't do a financial model to say rents have gone from £80 to £90. We do a financial model to say rents have gone from £80 to £80, but everyone's happier, everyone's healthier, everyone's better educated. And I know that's getting away from how do you deliver today, but I think the public sector is going to have to come together at a central level and work out how they bring some of that investment together.
I agree with most of what you're saying there, but I suppose my question was, I can understand that being a rational logic for the public sector, but it is, the public sector is not cash rich.
Yeah.
And therefore, some relationship between that public sector thinking and commercial interest.
Yeah. And simply right now the numbers don't stack up. So there's a gap, and you can either just allow that gap to get bigger, or you can start to work out ways. So things, the public sector might not have income, but some of the things that they're doing down south and in Aberdeen did it is they're using their covenant strength. So they might build a residential block, and the residential developer might say, I'm going to sell that off to individual houses, individual owners. But actually, it's better if the council own that block or the public sector own that block. And so, because if you get your business plan right, your values will go from here to here. And in the long term, it's a really good value, income, revenue generation opportunity, and that's what local authorities have been driven to commercialisation. So I think we need to look at the model, but the private sector don't really have too much heart out there to want to solve the problem. Some of them do, and they brand it. I'm hoping there's a chap called Larry Finch who heads BlackRock, big American investment fund, and he's made a statement in this year's financial statements that he's only going to, the people who invest in him are saying to him they need to have a purpose behind the investment, and therefore he's going to only invest in projects that deliver something a little bit more than return. So my dream one day is that a legal and general, a standard life would say, right, we're getting loads of returns off that sheds, beds and meds, but we're not going to win that mandate from this pension fund if we don't show them more corporate social responsibility, and therefore we're going to have no return on Kirkcaldy, but it's going to be something that sells us to our clients. And I think that I can see that starting to happen. But until the numbers stack up, private sector are just not going to come in.
Leslie, you have a question?
I'm interested in the tension you outline there between the public and the private sector. And I guess if I take a very kind of cynical view, the private sector have benefited. If I look at Kirkcaldy, where large scalers for huge numbers of years have benefited from the capital investment, social investment that the town's people have put into that. And have basically now gone. You've got assets in the town centre that are still basically owned by many of these organisations, where they are landlocked on key parts, where parts of the local authority or even other private investors may want to see that as an opportunity to unlock that. But the philosophy that you've outlined seems to be, well, I'm just staying put to wait and see what happens.
Yeah.
And therefore, in all of these outlines that you've provided, there has to be a propensity to change, and there actually has to be a propensity to change around actual corporate social responsibility as much as bottom line capital investment. And actually, maybe if there was a better understanding between the two, we might make progress. I think I would challenge the public sector a bit. The public sector have no money. Over periods of time, the public sector used to be able to make these kind of investments. And the question I've asked for Bill is who owns what in the town centre? Because if there is low hanging fruit, you have to know who's actually got the assets and where to start. Because otherwise we're going to have this patchwork quilt of where the local authority might come in and do stuff, but then it's blocked because we've got some US investor or some pension fund investor, And therefore, if you're looking at the landscape in really practical terms, my challenge has been, well, where do you really start that gets you the biggest return for the community? It's not clear to me until we understand the ownership and the leverages, actually how they're going to do that.
Yeah. And one of the first things you can do is just go and speak to them, because often they're not actually as bad as you think they are. They're just sat in London or New York or wherever, and they're just not engaged in it. It's on a spreadsheet away down here, and it has no impact, good or bad. It can double in value or half in value, but has no impact on their wider portfolio. So sometimes you just get into that person. Is it a Jersey Property Unit Trust? Where is it? And trying to get them round the table. And tell them, look, all that's going to happen is your value is going to go down and down and down and down. And you know, we're trying to find a way of solution to that. That's why I think there's going to be a lot more CPOs, compulsory purchase orders, in the future as well. Well, that's why the government are, again, trying to change it to make it quicker. So this is the whole dilemma, isn't it? I didn't show it. There was a slide there with a tightrope walker, and it was very much for that reason, because the public sector feel they're going to fall off either way they go. They do nothing, they fall off, because you know, if they take more risks, they fall off. It's very scary being on this tightrope at the moment, and it's how it's how you come through that. And I think try and get some of these people round the table and understand what they're about.
Harry?
Perhaps you can express even a general view and initiative that could go out for very keen on at the moment. We've started this in Slough, which is about going out to all sectors of the community to gather information. You said at the start of the presentation was very important. We've also, in line with what Leslie said, we'd like to follow that up with full identification of ownership, because we know that's an issue we know we've got to make contact. And beyond that, study the town, not just in the town centre, but what feeds the town centre as a town as a whole. Look for where the opportunities may lie. I know some of what you said about value and the economics behind that, but if you don't identify the opportunities, gather the information, present it, creating a platform for possible development. Is that the right way to go?
I think so. I think you also have to make some hard decisions about the places that you just can't make work, because you can't solve everything. You're not going to turn the town centre back to what it was. Nowhere is. So I think you have got to make some really, really hard decisions of, we're not going to touch that, it's too big, we can't deliver it, and we just have to leave that and resolve itself in a different way. We can, this is smaller, we think it's got higher impact, we think it's what the community want, we think the community support it, and find those projects. And I think you're going to have to make some really, really tough emotional decisions, and those have to be made with quite a clear head, without conflicts as well, because I think as Leslie was saying, you know, there's massive conflicts of interest out there. You know, these different owners have massive conflicts of interest, the private sector, but so does the public now and again. So I think you have to try and to work out where you can make the biggest impact. But land assembly is exactly the place you should be starting, and that information's easy. You know, it's on a database. It's not, you know, you can log online, do it on your phone. 5G will be here soon.
Gordon?
I think it's worth recognising that I think over the last few months we're starting to see some engaged owners who are coming, speaking, having conversations.
Gordon, can you speak up a bit, Mike?
I was just saying, I think over the past few months we're starting to see the shift that owners are becoming more engaged, coming to the table, going to events, speaking to the local authority and others, trying to understand the landscape and their part in it. Not all, and there's more work to do, but just to recognise those that are. I just wanted to come back to the housing element. So you touched on, a huge range of challenges for housing in town centres, the development deficit issue, are we building the right things for the next generation? What do Gen Z want? Do they want private rented sector? Do they want ownership? Do they want flat living?
Yep.
Do they want something live work? And it was quite interesting to see your slide about where you think the gaps are. And the other gap to me seems to be family housing in town centres. So the new strategic development area for Kirkcaldy is just getting started after a number of years. That will generate 1,000 new houses in time. We can get some of the push of the finance into the town centre. But where is it working well, where you're seeing families living in town centres, not in cities but in towns, and what's the factor there, if there is a factor that's keeping it? Is it experiential? Is it wider offer, or is it something else?
To be honest, it's usually education. Education investment into schools is usually the thing that drives people to want to live somewhere with a family. You have to feel safe. We talked about safety a little bit, but it's usually education. It's working great in places like Stockholm in Sweden. That's where we took that council chief exec to have a look around there, because they've got some really good examples. I'm not a housing expert, and that's why I kind of skip it, and that's why I actually also believe that housing is really important, but I think jobs is equally important. And that's why I have a bit of emphasis on offices and flexible offices and what you can do there, because I think without jobs, we don't need houses in the same way. So I think we need to work out where you can find some jobs, whatever that might be, and how you encourage those, and then the houses kind of support that. That image we showed of the modular housing in New Zealandton and in Manchester, there are good examples around there. I think you just look at some of the older towns and cities as well. There's people living far, far closer, but to me it's education, because people want to send their kids to a good school. Usually, ideally it's free. So if you've got good schools around, we do see that in Slough. I work in Slough, and everyone goes, "Oh, Slough, it's got a terrible brand," but they spent a fortune building new schools through something called Slough Urban Renewal, which is a 50-50 joint venture with Morgan Sindall. And we're now seeing kids commuting from Windsor to go to school in Slough because the schools are so good. And that's pushing resi values up. But the problem is it's pushing resi values up, and then the private sector developers are coming in and are just developing what they want to deliver after the public sector, the one that took the risk at the start to build these new schools. So it's that kind of revolving, complicated financial model you need to do, which is more than just financial, of course.
Okay, I think just last couple of questions.
One of the key features of what you've presented here is that that's people with innovation. They're excited about whatever they've been doing, they've gathered the investment, they've been positive about what they're doing. And in Kirkcaldy, we've got a massive amount of civility, a massive amount of pride in our community. And that community will stand up and be counted when it comes to these new ideas. The naysayers, the people that keep going on about the negative stuff, need to just find a new life and concentrate on the positive people that are engaged in this town about making a difference. So there's people with great ideas, and it's just a case of delivering them. So working in partnership, we've been doing that, and we'll continue to do it. What we're doing is growing the interest and sort of input from the private sector, because they haven't been necessarily at the same table. And another challenge for us is to get rid of the risk-averse attitude that pervades society.
Well, you've said a couple of leadership to do all of that, risk-averse, and see it as an opportunity. Be really excited about this. This could be fantastic. This is really exciting, and I think the next generation, which whoever that is, millennials or Gen Z, this could be really exciting for them. The Enlightenment was here in the 1700s.
Yep.
There could be a new Enlightenment that starts right
Yep.
here. And maybe have a global effect. That's our plan. Thank you. And chase
Okay.
the push line.
Thanks, Neil. And it's great to end on a positive note, that sort of determination. Just to say, a lot of interesting stuff there in Alan's presentation. A lot of stuff that I hadn't certainly considered, that you see where it fits in. The what, the how, and the why, I think, are very important. And indeed, I've followed some of what Heather and Neil said. We actually have started embarking and doing that with the placemaking project, the Fife Council, what we're attempting to do, so that's going on. I think without a doubt there are horrendous challenges in front of us, but I think another key message that Alan's given us is if we don't do something now, it's going to be far more expensive down the line. So we need to do something, even though we might not move onto this list straight away, we need to get ourselves prepared. It's a bit like a shovel-ready project, really, when a tranche of money comes your way. So there are things, the placemaking, things like that we can do, and we can align the town and get ourselves going. The other thing I was thinking of is a lot of what Alan presented there, we might think is down in the affluent south of the country, or the more affluent part of the country. There is nothing, this is a very affluent part of the world up here in central Scotland. We are deserving as much as these pop-up shops and fine wines and things like that, and we need to get that into our psyche that we ask, we deserve, and we challenge to get these things for us. I'd like to thank you, Alan. Thank you very much indeed for taking the time to come down from Perth and putting that out there. Thank you very much indeed to the audience for your questions and for your time, which has been very valuable. There is some tea and coffee there available. We do have the venue for a while now, so they're more than welcome to, hopefully Alan, you can spend a wee bit more time, to grab Alan in a non-biblical way, and somewhere and ask him a question and do things like that. And I know that some other people want to do some introductions. Finally, I think we need, as a town, as a series of organisations, to actually, again, really get into this collaboration and drive it forward and take ownership and take charge of the situation we're in. Thank you very much indeed, folks. Cheers.